All right, what's happening, APLers? Here with a preview for playoffs week one. A little bit delayed. Solomon and I have been trying to get together to do this since like Wednesday, and it just hasn't worked. So, goddamn kids ruin everything. So, sick kids everywhere. So, it'll just be me. Try to get Solomon in next week to do our 1 year reunion when we did our playoff preview last year when we were both awful. So, first, we're going to go through a little bit of week 14. It's kind of like ancient history by now, but whatever. I put this together like on Tuesday, so still going to go through it. So the story from week 14 is really these guys here. So Tommy DeVito and his agent, just ridiculous. I'm trying to convince Kevin into dressing like the agent for APL draft next year. We'll see if it happens. Anyway, so quick little review of what happened and how we got here in week 14. So I beat Corey last week, mostly due to Brandon Aubrey kicking like 4 field goals that were all super long. There, otherwise a pretty decent battle. Greg beats Solomon. The Brock Purdy, Trey McBride trade is just really worked out well. Other than that one goddamn week he couldn't beat Boot Barn. So pretty healthy margin there over Solomon. Solomon had Justin Herbert get hurt, which makes up a good chunk of that, but Greg gets a win. Jake beat Ross. He did not cover his 275 point margin there, so Jake lost the APL bets money there to Ross, but did put up a healthy score at 1233, and the shitbag Boot Barn team didn't break 1,000 again. Daggy hot here to end the season, so it gets his second win, second in a row over today, and highlighted by, I believe, a decent Matt Stafford game. No, he started Minshew. Never mind. And then Ryan gets the big win over Tank. So the scenarios here where Ryan needed to win, or if Ryan lost, he needed Daggy to win. So both of those happened, and Ryan gets into the playoffs. So, so this is what the standings look like at the end of the year. So over in Jake's division, Jake takes the division with 11-3 record. Pretty decent gap there, 3-game lead over Tank and Ryan. So Tank drops to 8-6. Ryan jumps up to 8-6 with the win, but the division record there is the tiebreaker. So Tank gets the 2 seed, Ryan gets the 3 seed. With the loss today, drops to 6-8, and he is the 4 seed in the division. And then Daggy gets, as I said, the second win of the year to go to 2-12. In Greg's division, similar margin of division lead there for me over Corey at the 11-3 record, over Corey at 8-6. So Corey pretty comfortably gets the 2 seed in our division. And Kevin finishes 6-8, worst division record. Greg 6-8, better division record, more points for Greg. But the Boot Barn beat Greg twice, and that is the difference there. So Solomon 4-10 there to round things out. So with those being the standings, now we'll look at the playoffs here. And in the old championship round here, we have Jake has the first round bye, and he will play the winner of Corey and Ryan. And then I have the first round bye, and I will play the winner of Tank and the Boot Barn. So those are the records. That's how the bracket plays out. So obviously this week, week 15, are the Corey, Ryan, Tank, and Ross matchups. And then week 16 will be Jake getting the winner, me getting the winner. And then 17 and 18 is a championship. Over in the Get Your Money Back spot here, Greg will take on Daggy. Today takes on Solomon. And so whoever wins the Greg Daggy matchup will get the Tank Ross loser, and then whoever wins this today Solomon matchup will get the Corey Ryan loser, and then we progress through on that side too. So obviously whoever wins this gets their $60 back for entry fee for this year. So that's how things are looking, and we'll go through the matchups here. I'm gonna go through the get your money back ones kind of quick, and then spend a decent amount of time on the championship round matchups. So We have Daggy versus Greg as a first matchup here. So just kind of how everything comes out. Daggy changed his lineup this morning as Brandon Cook's out. I didn't update this, but whatever, it's close. So Stafford against the Commanders, really nice matchup there. They are really, really bad against the pass. So feeling good there. Obviously had the big week last week with Puka and Cooper Kupp got going. So feeling like a good spot there. Daggy's running backs are suddenly like extremely strong. He's got Zeke, who's getting all the touches for New England, and Zach Moss, who is also getting all the touches. He's been kind of shitty with all the touches, but still playing the Steelers, their run defense. It's a little bit of a bummer. So wide receiver is kind of a crapshoot. These guys they've all just been kind of like mediocre most weeks. So let's see if anybody here can break out of this like 50 to 70 point range and give Daggy a boost. Isaiah Likely looking good last week, had a nice long touchdown run or touchdown reception. So they're definitely using him and get a feel pretty good there. Kicker's solid. Should be a good matchup on Monday night with the Eagles and the Seahawks with a lot of points scored. So should be some opportunities for field goals. And the defensive guys are averaging decent points. So Daggy with 1,034 here on the Greg side of the ball. I got Brock Purdy. The number here is 325. He's been over 400 3 out of the last 4 weeks. And that number just seems a little subdued because it's the Cardinals and the 49ers should crush them and won't need to pass, but we'll see how that goes. The running back matchups here, Mixon against the Vikings. Seems fine. They're using Mixon a lot more lately. The Vikings defense is pretty decent, actually. So we'll see how that goes. Swift against the Seahawks. It's fine. Greg picks up Beckham this week. He's been pretty decent lately. So it's not a bad spot. Hopkins is a monster on Monday night. And Levis is just throwing him balls to go get, and it's working. So it's a good spot. Olave. Here, he's a true game time decision is what the word is on the street. So might need to swap in here for Olave. But I think some upside here, possible big games on these guys. These guys are kind of like deep ball, big play receivers. McBride has been awesome. The 49ers are really good at defense, but I would guess the Cardinals are going to be behind a lot and going to be throwing a lot. So there's a lot of volume going to McBride. Kicker's fine. Defense is pretty good. Spillane played on Thursday night and just did okay. So 1,070 to 1,034. It's super close here. Go with Greg, ending Daggy's reign of the big 2-game winning streak. I think that just Purdy and McBride have big number potential. Hopkins might be able to keep going with what he got last week. And I think the OBJ pickup is good. I think it'll be a high scoring game on Sunday night between the Jags and Ravens. So I'll go with Greg, but it's close. Next matchup here is Solomon versus Sade. So 2 running backs here are the centerpieces. So Solomon's rolling with Trevor Lawrence against the Ravens on Sunday night. I think that's fine. The Ravens defense is tougher, but there's nobody else. Justin Herbert has a broken finger, so it's Lawrence. He's the dude. Barkley and Bijan, kind of the big hitters here. Solomon also has Achane and Rashad White. There's a lot of options at running back. These guys are good. Saquon against the Saints, a little scary. Defense is solid, but Saquon was really good last week, so roll with him. Wide receivers, I think they look pretty solid for Solomon. Ridley against the Ravens. I got the Lawrence hook up there just with Kirk out. I think that he gets more volume. It hasn't really worked like that so far, but I don't know. You got to start him. Waddle against the Jets. With no Tyreek, he's got to be the main guy if there's no Tyreek. It also sounds like there might be shitty weather down for that game, so maybe that's maybe not a boom spot, but I don't know. It's Waddle. You can break it at any time, so it's fine. And then with the new gunslinger, Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson, I think is a must start in that game as well. So the only concern there for Solomon is if that's just like a ton of wind and rain, then maybe they can't pass and that game gets subdued. Hawkinson gets Mullins at quarterback, which is probably a good thing for him. So that number projects that 1133 for Solomon. It's pretty solid. And then Sade, is Jordan Love back in the lineup here against the Bucks, and the Bucks are, I think, right up there with Commanders for bad pass defenses. So should be a good spot. 306 doesn't really project that, but I think some of that is built into how shitty he looked last week. Running back spot looks solid for today. Tony Pollard is at the Bills. Might be a little tougher, but the Dallas offense just rolls. So always a good start. Kyron against the Commanders, great spot. Somebody probably should have traded for Kyron before the deadline there. That could be helping somebody out, probably like me. Today rolls with Gabe Davis again, despite a 0 last week. Probably liking the game environment here between the Bills and the Cowboys, assuming there'll be lots of points scored. So Bills will have to pass a lot. And then Nakua gets the Commanders. Great spot there. And then Rashee Rice. Looks like he's like established himself as the number 2 option behind Kelsey in that offense. Just wonder if the Patriots can slow some stuff down there. And Njoku's been really good, like really, really good last week. So good spot. Bears defense has been kind of formidable for the last few weeks here. So maybe they can do something, but I don't know. Flacco's just chucking it. Kickers defense is fine. I have today coming up like 90-ish points behind Solomon here. So I still think it'll be close. And Solomon's going to have the come from behind spot here. So he's going to be down some going into Sunday night with Lawrence and Ridley. So we get to watch that and see if they can make up the ground that is there. So that's what I got. So we'll move into the championship matchups here. First matchup is Boot Barn versus Tank. So look at this in a little more detail. So Ross is rolling with Jake Browning. He gets the Vikings playing in like an hour or something here, hour and a half or so, something like that. So in the last 5 games for Browning, he's averaged 352 points. The Vikings are giving up 276 points last 5 opponents. So the matchup doesn't look great. Over the last 5 opponents for the Vikings have been mostly trash. We've played Aiden O'Connell, Josh Fields, Russ Wilson, Derek Carr / Jameis Winston, and Desmond Ridder. No, we played Heineke. So, like, not great quarterbacks. Not that Jake Browning is a great quarterback, but that offense seems to be better than most of those that we were limiting to 276 points on average. Still probably would like a better matchup here for Ross than the Vikings, but this is what we got right now. We got Jake Browning at quarterback because we traded away our team. So Tank rolls out Jalen Hurts. 346 is his projection there. Might seem a little healthy there based on his recent performance. He's had in his last 5, he's averaging 305. He's been up and down though. He's had some games where he's at this 350 number and some games where he's at this 250 number. We all probably saw the video here of the potential. It just seems like it has to be fake, where he's like rolling on the ground, figuring out how to protect the ball because the team doesn't trust him. I just don't believe that stuff. The dude's like the team. I don't think that they could not trust him. But I just think that this game could be a shootout. The Seahawks are going to be able to pass, assuming Geno Smith is playing. They're going to be able to move the ball against the Eagles because everybody does. So Hurts is going to have to play catch up. At the same time, that should have been what's happened the last few weeks, and it just hasn't worked. But still think this is a good spot here. So Tank has the advantage at quarterback. I should go back to the beginning of this. Really, if everything goes like somewhat according to plan, Tank is going to crush Ross. So we're trying to find a way that, like, what needs to happen in order for this upset to happen. So quarterback doesn't really seem like that's a spot. What has to happen is Vikings and Bengals game shoots out a little bit. Bengals need to pass a lot. Vikings get ahead of them, which is like impossible because we turn the ball over all the time. But that's what would need to happen. And then Hurts needs to do what he's done on 2 of the last 4 weeks, is just sit around that 250 mark and give Ross an advantage. So I don't think that's likely though. All right, so look at running backs here. So Ross is running out David Montgomery, who's been pretty solid all year, and then Jalen Warren, who has not been solid for the last few weeks. So Amani's averaging 103 points in his last 5, so this 102 is right on average here. He usually gets enough carries and scores a touchdown to get, right around 100 points. Jalen Warren has been averaging 91 in his last 5 games, and their matchups are both really good. So Denver's been getting rolled, even though they're winning more games, they're still getting crushed on the ground. It's a really good matchup for Montgomery. It just, as always, comes down to the split between him and Gibbs. What's he getting? Who rips off a big run when they are getting their touches? Jalen Warren's matchup is even better. The Colts are averaging 197 points given up against running backs in their last 5 games. So I don't think it could be much of a better matchup for Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren just hasn't done anything the last 3 weeks. So maybe the weak defense, he can rip a big one here, get involved in the passing game to boost that number, but it doesn't seem super promising. Tanks running backs here, you got Derrick Henry, plays the Texans. He crushes the Texans historically. Projected for 108 in his last 5. He's averaged 87 points. And the Texans are actually just giving up 117 points a game, so it's kind of a neutral matchup here. The other spot, Kamara, whatever, plays the Giants. It's a good matchup. He's scoring Kamara is averaging about the 102 points in his last 5 as he's projected to get here. Matchup's really good. Giants are giving up 170 points a game to running backs. That's all the running backs, not just the top running back, but all the running backs. Just question the volume. Is there upside cap here? With Taysom Hill back in? Does he steal some goal line touches? Does he steal some rushing from Kamara? He had 60 points in the first quarter last week and finished with 68. So for trying to find a way for how can Ross's less talented running backs outscore Tanks, that's pretty much the story. Kamara's usage needs to go down. On that side, Tank also has ETN on the bench here. Gets the Baltimore defense. Probably a good call to leave ETN on the bench, but got to think about it a little bit. On the pass catcher side, things separate here quite a bit. So Zay Flowers against the Jags. Flowers has been pretty solid the last few weeks. He's had some nice games, but disappeared in some too. He's averaging 68. The Jags defense gives up 233 points a game to wide receivers, which is a lot. So it's a good matchup. You just wonder how much do the Ravens need to throw, and do they throw into Flowers or Likely or Beckham or what? So you need a big play to Flowers or need a heavy volume to Flowers. Seems like his heavy volume has dropped off a little bit lately. DK against the Eagles, phenomenal matchup. They give up 268 points a game to wide receivers. They're super bad at defense. We saw DK put up 200 points on Thursday night last week or a couple weeks ago. So 86 seems like the floor for DK, and it could be a really big game. So I think if we're seeing a Ross victory here, DK is going to need to crush because it's a great matchup, and he's talented. Just has to show up. Jaden Reed, I'm assuming, will be the start here from Ross. I don't think he made some IR transactions this morning. I'm assuming Jaden Reed gets the start. Bucks defense also bad. He's averaged 83 points in his last 5, and the Green Bay or the Tampa Bay defense gives up a lot. So the numbers might be a little misleading though. So they've been crushed early in the year. In their last 5, it's only 188, so almost 80 points less than what Philly's averaging. But Tampa has played Carolina, Atlanta, Tennessee in 3 out of their last 5, which those teams don't or can't throw the ball. So feels like a good spot for Jaden Reed. He's getting a ton of usage and is getting some rushing touches there too. The tight end spot is just a mix and match here. Cade Otton gets kicked out of the lineup, and we're rolling with Chigga Quankwo here. Another good matchup against the Texans. They've struggled a little bit against the tight end, and Levis in the fourth quarter looked like he could pass the ball. So I think the story is these are all good matchups for Ross, but the players just aren't that good outside of DK at this point in their careers. On the tank side, we have some more established guys over here that consistently put up really good numbers. So Ayuk gets the Cardinals. He in his last 5, he's got 105 points. And the Arizona's not given up a ton in their last 5 games, but their strength, the teams they played aren't great at passing. So really good spot for Ayuk, as always. Just depends on what the breakdown is going to be between Ayuk, Debo, who's been on a tear lately, and Kittle and McCaffrey. So 95 there for Ayuk. Diggs at 97 against the Cowboys. Diggs has averaged 62 in his last 5 games. He's been over 100 2 times and under 43 times in his last 5 games. So really boomer bust with Diggs, but gotta feel like the Bills need to win this game, and they need to go to their best player in that situation. So Dallas has been really good against the pass, as we all probably know, but they did get ripped by AJ Brown. I shouldn't say ripped. AJ Brown was good last week, and then they got ripped by DK. That was the 200-point game a couple weeks back. So the ability is there for somebody to put up a big game against Dallas, even though their defense is solid. Devontae gets the Seahawks there. He got the hookup with Hurts. Matchup is good. He's been steady. With Goddard coming back, might be a little bit less there for him, but didn't seem to matter too much last week. So he's projected for 88. He's averaged 101 over his last 5, and the Seahawks pass defense is kind of non-existent. So they're giving up 268 points a game, as I mentioned with DK. So the it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. Tight end, this is like I think the key for Tank here. Kelsey, $157 is the number here. He's averaged 132 over the last 5. It's not a good matchup though. The Patriots are extremely strong against tight ends. They're only giving up 63 points a game. I know Kelsey's different. Obviously, he's going to be like the focal point of the offense. I just wonder if Belichick can scheme to take away Kelsey. He's good at taking away players. Maybe he finds a way to take away Kelsey and tries to make the rest of the shitbag receivers for Mahomes beat them. So I think Tank needs Kelsey to do some stuff here to be comfortable, and Ross has to be hoping for Kelsey to get shut down and have one of his like 30, 40, 50-point games in order to get a win. So I'll throw in the kickers. Ross made a decent move here. He dropped Sanders to pick up Bass. That should be good. Ivan Pace was a monster last week. The Bengals aren't a great matchup. They've been tough historically this year. They've been tough to score points against. Derwin James, I just don't like the D-back start. So Derwin James didn't do much on Thursday night. And Antoine's been a monster lately, so we'll see if he can keep it up against the Packers. But 971 is the total for Ross. On the Tank side, see if Moody can actually kick any field goals this week, or if he still just keeps kicking extra points, and then throw on the IDPs and have a healthy margin here. 200 points cushion for Tank over Ross. So I think the talking points really are for Ross. He needs Jake Browning to not be terrible and he needs to be like over 300 for sure. 350 would be great. And then he needs Okonkwo to do something at tight end because Kelsey's probably going to do more. So he needs to be somewhat comparable there. And then can Jalen Warren get a big play? Can Jaden Reed be involved? He's got to hope for some big plays and some usage on that side. On the Tank side of it, I think it's just Hurts and Kelsey. Those are premier players, early round draft picks, and Kelsey's been producing all year. Hurts has just been up and down. I think those guys need to have decent games, and Tank's probably safe. If they have down games, then the door's open. So that's what we'll be looking for. And then kind of can Diggs rebound and give Tank some steady production there at wide receiver from Diggs that he hasn't had lately. So trying to find a way to say, can Ross compete here? But I don't think this shitbag boot barn puts up a fight at all. It's not really close or fun. We're gonna get a good look here on Saturday to see how Ross gets out of the gate. So he's got Browning, Montgomery, and Warren all playing on Saturday, and Tank won't have anything playing on Saturday. And we'll go into Monday Night Football, with Hurts and Devonta against DK, and be interesting, but probably not. What would be interesting is if the original boot barn was in this matchup. So it might look something like this, where we have Lamar Jackson, Rashad White, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, and Njoku with the same stuff. And then, we're like 40 points away from what Tank's projected at here. You're feeling maybe a little better about this lineup, and maybe you would even be playing Ryan this week instead of Tank. You could have jumped up into the 2 spot in the division, which I think is likely what would have happened. So other people may not be tracking this, but I'm tracking this to see if the original boot barn would have made a run through the playoffs here with this original squad. So next matchup, let me switch my papers here. We have Corey and Ryan. So would have done this on Wednesday. This would have been a little different than today because Corey's dudes did pretty good on Thursday night. So we'll get there in a minute, though. All right, so Ryan has Lamar Jackson at the Jags. His other option is Sam Howell at the Rams, but I think it's a little bit of a tough call. But when Lamar was good Lamar last week, it's really hard to bench him. So go with him against the Jags, who are pretty bad at quarterback. So they're averaging 368 points allowed in their last 5 games, and they have played CJ Stroud and Brock Purdy, which seems kind of funny at the beginning of the year. If I'd have told you that those guys were good, believe me. But they've been decent, better than decent this year, but played those 2. So they're part of the 368 average. Will Levis is part of that, but he did not do well. But then Joe Flacco and Jake Browning also crushed this Jags defense. So not great quarterbacks are doing very well. Earlier in the year, Gardner Minshew had a huge game, and Derek Carr had a huge game against these guys. So feeling like a good spot. 338 is not projecting to be a huge spot for Lamar, but I think it just really depends on the game flow. If this one is back and forth, Jags get out to a little lead. We saw last week that Lamar can produce in a shootout. So Ryan's got to be hoping for that. On the Corey side of the ball, we have, I don't know, maybe the most disappointing player in fantasy. Maybe that's an overstatement here, but Mahomes gets the Patriots. It's not a great matchup. 335 is his projection. His last 5, he's averaging 297, and the Patriots are allowing 264 in their last 5 games. It's not a good matchup for Mahomes. The Patriots are definitely going to want to slow the whole game down, which limits opportunities for Mahomes, and just the defense of the Chiefs has been good this year, and they haven't needed to shoot out at all. I'd say maybe the promising part of this is the Patriots have been ripped by good quarterbacks. So before Dak started throwing the ball like 80 times a game, he put up 308. Josh Allen had 351. Sam Howell had 391, and Tua had 402. So there is the ability to put up numbers against the Patriots. Just depends how it goes. So the points are projected here pretty close. I lean Lamar in this one. That I think Lamar has a lot better opportunity to go nuts than Mahomes, just based on opponents and game script and how they've been playing in the last few weeks. At the running back spot, there we go. I have some interesting stuff. So Eckler went on Thursday night and was awful. He had like 5 carries for 9 yards, and then some receptions. He had like 2 10 to 12 yard receptions in the third or fourth quarter that got him up to his 42 points. So that is not what Ryan was hoping for at all out of Eckler, and puts him in a hole. Mostert gets the Jets. Jets are averaging 171 points allowed to running backs. It's a good matchup. Just worry about the weather there a little bit, if that's going to be an impact, and then worry about what Achane does. So Mostert had a huge game last week, and like a ton of it came in the fourth quarter where they just ran the shit out of the ball. But I would think that would be the plan for Miami. If it kind of depends on Tyreek, if Tyreek's going to play or not play. Even if he does play, he's probably not his normal self. And the Jets are not good. They're not easy to pass against. So running is definitely the way to go. So I just think that this is it's a good matchup here. Mostert's averaging 109 points in his last 5, and he's got some big games in there too. So I like it. On the Corey side of the ball, we had Zamir White at 108 points on Thursday night. So Corey IRs Jacobs, throws Zamir White in, gets a touchdown and a ton of the carries in that 63-21 game that we were not expecting out of the Raiders after they scored 0 points the week before. So Corey's got to be happy with the 108 points by Zamir White to Eckler's 42 there. So it's a nice bounce back. You just wonder if it goes the other way here with Algier against the Panthers. Algier's averaged 44 points in his last 5. It's the Panthers. They're not great at run defense, but does Algier get the volume to be able to do that or not? So Corey does have Jerome Ford on the bench here against Chicago. Chicago's defense has been much better lately and pretty solid against the run. So he probably has a little bit more upside, but I don't know, maybe not. So I think running back's fairly even there, despite the 108-42 showing there from White and Eckler. The pass catchers, this is where Ryan, I think, can make up some ground. Gets AJ Brown against the Seahawks. Seahawks have been killed by good receivers pretty much all year. AJ Brown is definitely a good receiver. He's averaged 76 over his last 5 games, but last week kind of showed back to the form he had earlier in the year when Ryan traded his 4th round pick away for him. So I think that's a good spot. Cooper Kupp showed up again last week after having some shitty weeks. He's averaged 58 points in his last 5 games, but had the nice week last week. So Kupp against Commanders is really good. It's like the best matchup that you can possibly get. They're giving up 242 points a game to wide receivers. I think you just got to feel good about Kupp in this matchup with what he did last week. Debo against the Cardinals, outstanding matchup. He's been just crushing lately. He had 200 points last week, like 180 the week before, over 100 the week before that. So great spot. The Cardinals aren't as bad as Washington or Seattle, but they're still not good at defending the pass. Just seems like Debo is the featured dude lately. He's averaging 134 points in his last 5 games. So good there. Laporta, it's a good matchup. Denver is the worst in the league against tight ends. They're giving up 150 points a game. I think it just depends on what Lions team is going to show up. So they're at home this week. They get Denver, whose defense looked really, really, really bad early in the year, but they've been pretty respectable lately. They're still not good against the tight end, but overall they're playing better defense. But we like to think that the home game for Detroit is a good thing for them. Goff's much better at home, and Laporta can get rolling. So this is where Ryan, I think, has to make up some ground here. But Devontae Adams had a nice game on Thursday, 129 points. Got the touchdown in there too, and I think he had like 6 or 7 catches, but good game. Mike Evans, didn't show up last week. I think he had like 9 points. He's been, even with that, in his last 5, he's been averaging 110 because he has some monster games in there. The Packers are kind of an even matchup there, and I think it just kind of depends how the game goes. So Evans has been solid all year, other than last week, and 98 points there with definitely the possibility to go way over. And then Drake London against the Panthers. This is not a good spot here for Drake London. He looked just absurd last week, to quote Kevin. Absurd. Um, just some ridiculous catches. The Falcons were throwing the ball all over the place. Still lost, which probably helps Arthur Smith double down on the we need to run the ball a billion times a game. So just think the game script here probably limits Drake London. If that dude is on a different team, he would be super fun to watch. So 71 points is the projection. He's been averaging 78 even with the huge game last week. Just think that the game flow here is going to slow him down, that they're not going to need to pass. Evan Ingram, I think, is a good spot for Corey here too. He gets the Ravens. The matchup is fine, but Evan Ingram has just been on fire the last 3 weeks, especially last week at a huge game. So good spot for Corey to probably definitely put up some points and hopefully equal or surpass Laporta there. So he's averaged 125 in his last 5. So it's a really good number. So throw in kickers and defenses here. Ryan's stuff is pretty normal. He's got the Deron Bland start there, which is a little interesting. He's been, obviously, everybody probably knows he's the pick 6 dude for the year. He hasn't had one, I think, since Ryan has picked him up, but he's still been solid. And Daniil's been just a monster this year. He's got to get after Browning to get Ryan some points there. So 1,085 for Ryan, and Corey's guys all look fairly similar. He's got a fairly similar makeup here. You got Daniil trying to get after the quarterback and Parsons trying to get after the quarterback. But this one is 6 points difference on the projection. So I think it really comes down to a few things. On the Ryan side of the ball, it's what Lamar shows up. Do we get the good Lamar or the bad Lamar? Do we get like the 225 to 250 Lamar or like the 400 Lamar? Feels like it's more of a 400 game given the matchup. And then I think it's Ryan's wide receivers. I've talked about this a little bit. AJ Brown and Cooper Kupp were on fire earlier this year, and they've cooled off lately. A little bit of a return to form last week. So is what they did last week real? And Ryan has JJ on the bench lurking there. I don't know if he's tempted to put him in or not. It's tempting, but it's like scary at the same time because he's kind of hurt and it's kind of Nick Mullins. So, and then I think the last for Ryan is what Lions team shows up. So it's a good Lions, then that's really good for Laporta. On the Corey side of the ball, we talked about this stuff already, but I think it is, what does that matchup against Belichick look like for Mahomes? And do the Patriots just try to grind the ball out? Can they grind the ball out against that defense? What does Corey do with the running back 2 spot? Is it Algier? If it's Algier, how does he perform? Can he do more than he has done in the past 5 weeks? And kind of holistically, if it is Algier and Drake London, what's the game flow like in that Panthers game? So is it just a slog and they run the ball 60 times because they can just pound the Panthers? Then maybe Algier gets some more, but it's probably at the cost of London. So it doesn't seem like both of those guys can go nuts. And then Ingram, I think, is a spot for Corey to exceed here. So I'd say it's super close. I think that Ryan moves on just because the depth of Ryan's lineup is stronger. I think those wide receivers can put up huge games, and the Mahomes matchup scares me. So that's what I got for this week. So if things moved on, we'd have Jake versus Ryan, and we would have Tank versus me next week with the big matchup to go to the championship. So we'll see how it goes. So we get football all day today, all day tomorrow, and then a fun Monday night game too. So we should have, looking at the Ryan and Corey matchup, we'll have AJ Brown on Monday Night Football. There might be stuff to watch here, and then in the Tank and Kevin matchup, we're going to have Hurts and Devonta and DK. So we're going to have stuff to watch going down the wire here. And then on Sunday night, we're going to have stuff too. We got Lamar and Evan Ingram, and I know in Solomon's game, we have Trevor Lawrence and Ridley too. So be nice and spread out and some fun stuff to watch. So thanks for getting me your bowl game picks, and I'll talk to you later.